Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, October 16th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Iowa game is in 6 days, the game against Michigan in 41 days. The off week is over, and it is game week once again in Columbus. On yesterday's show, we heard from Ohio State defensive coaches with a little midseason progress report on that side of the ball. Today, we're talking offense. Justin Frye, the offensive line coach, met with the media last week and was incredibly interesting to talk to. He had some really fascinating things to say on a bunch of topics. And with things going fairly well for where we're both his guys and the offense on a whole, I'm guessing this will be a show you guys enjoy. So let's start with what has made this year's line successful. Everyone had their own theory last year on why things weren't quite right. So now what's the reason that the line is performing so much better?
Their weekly approach. These guys aren't settled with like, oh, we had a good game last week, let's go. Every week we come in and we find something on film that we need to attack, something that maybe wasn't as clean as we want, and they're looking for that. So that's been the best part. I think if you continue to do that, and as Ryan talks every week, right, it's a new challenge and a new game, and you can't rest on what you've done, and you got to work your details and fundamentals and technique, and these guys are looking for that every week. So that's been probably why, if you say it's been consistent, because on Mondays they show up and they've watched the tape, they've taken notes, they want to know what we can improve on and what we got to work that week, and then we attack that during the week, and they've done a really good job with that.
When things are going well, it's easy to get a little complacent, but Frye said they are really not taking anything for granted as they try to keep improving.
Just the basics. I mean, when we're supposed to run the ball, you got to run the ball. When we got to protect the quarterback, make sure the quarterback's protected. Staying physical, staying assignment sound. I mean, it sounds all basic, but that's what you got to do. You got to block them so they can't tackle them. And so whether we're throwing the ball or running the ball, we just got to make sure that we're continuing to do that at a high level.
You will hear our defensive coaches talk a lot about trying to keep things simple so that guys can play fast. And Frye said they're taking a similar approach with the offensive line.
Probably the teaching component of how much do I need to give those guys on a certain play. Like we're not going to ask, Matt Jones to know the rotation of the coverage to the boundary and those things, right? So I think as a staff, just as we talk, and once again, it's just putting the guys in the best situation where we can attack the defensive structure that week, and then breaking it down kind of into the Cliff Notes version, or the, as we say, trimming the fat a lot with our guys. What do I need to give to the tackles, to the guards, to the center, saying, okay, on this formation or this set, look for this because this could be coming. So I think just the funneling of the information, probably helps. But I've always really tried to do that. The longer you do coach and get around and been able to be in the pass game and the throw game and skill guys and big guys, I think it's more of a, that recipe of like, what does it need here? Need a little extra sugar, a little extra salt, whatever that is, and just knowing what to give those guys so that they can go play really fast and really physical and really hard.
Playing fast, obviously important on the line because you've got 300-pound guys lining up just a foot or two across the line of scrimmage from you. So how does Frye keep things simple like that so that he can provide help and make quick adjustments during the game?
You got to give guys things to latch on to in teaching, like just overall humans learning like groups of three and things of three, right? So with that, trimming the fat, that's when the kid starts talking, well, I thought I saw this, so I was thinking this, and well, you've all played the game. Like, you don't have time to stand at the line of scrimmage and think those 9 things. All right, it's 4 down, there's the point, he's here, I'm doing this, and then go execute at a high level. Right. So that's just kind of the mindset that we use in the room of, you're going to paint this big picture, right? You got to start with little brush strokes there. So what is that? Who's the downs? Who's that guy? Okay, I have 1 from there or 2 from there. I have no one from there. I have help. I don't have help. And then let your technique take you home that way. And just really have, I'm not smart enough to do it any other way. I got to be systematic for myself so that when they ask questions on the sidelines or they come over and say, Coach, this guy that backer bumped out to here, I can draw it up and say, okay, we're going to go to this. And then they grasp onto it. And it's not, well, maybe we'll try this. And because then they're looking at you like, well, shit, if he don't know, then maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Right. So and that's the message delivered to them. But yeah, probably there's a few things in there that I have, but they've just become so habitual to us in our room that's common language to us.
One term we've heard a lot from Ryan Day this fall in terms of why the offense has been successful is that the offense is well targeted. So what does that actually mean, specifically for Justin Frye and the offensive line?
It's a weekly process because the structures, it's twofold. You see structures week in and week out that they put on tape, and then everybody's going to try to throw something at you to throw you a curveball. And so you got to give the kids tools to, if there is a look that might be a little different than what you've seen, how do we make sure we're still, blocking the 6 or the 7 or the 5 guys we're targeted to? And that comes through film study, that comes through the tip sheets, that comes through walkthroughs. And our guys, we go all the way through the end of the week by Thursday and Friday where they're really feeling comfortable about all the looks that they could see, because you don't know what you're going to get. But that's ultimately what you're striving for, because as I said before too, like, who do you have and how do you block them? It all starts that way. Ryan says it all the time, especially to young guys. If you don't know who you're supposed to block, then how can you have any success, right? And that sounds so simple and so elementary, but that's the starting point. And so for us, we've got to make sure that we understand what front we're facing, who the identification is, and then what technique do you use to block who you have. And we just harp on that because you're timed to task of, once again, really good players playing really hard and really fast. Well, if we block the right guys and we leave the safety for the backs, then the backs run over the safety. If we protect the right people and pass off a twist because we know it's coming, then CJ drops back in rhythm and throws the ball and gets it down the field to all the guys he's throwing it to. So, just constantly harping and having them become habitual with communication. How many downs? Who do we have? And then where do we go from there? And not just assuming things or blocking looks or guessing. If we're all on the same page, it's the wrong page. At least we're blocking 5 guys, and that's where you turn those could be negative yardage runs into the ugly 1 or 2s. And I think we've done a good job with that, kind of eliminating the wholesale negative play so far this year.
One of the guys who has been a really important part of the line this year is Matt Jones. He is a first-time starter, and he is not really 100% right now. He's sort of talked about the fact that he's dealing with a little bit of a foot injury. So how is he doing with playing at less than 100% right now? And how confident is Justin Frye and guys like Enoch Ramahi or Josh Fryer if at some point Jones or someone else can't go and they have to step into the starting lineup?
Matt's like a lot like we talked with Paris and Donnie and those guys. Like, Matt's never played like a full season. And so Matt's learning what it feels like to really be the guy all the time, right? I've told all those guys, the minute you play major college football, you're never going to wake up in the morning feeling great ever again. You're going to crack your ankles or your wrist or your elbow or something, because it's the nature of the position, right? So I think more than that, he's just learning that's kind of what the game is. It's not hampered him at all. I mean, he's playing really well. Still moving guys in the run game when we're asking him to, protection-wise, coming off and doing some things. So not any big issue there. And then, the big thing with those other guys you talked about is just creating depth with all those young guys. And we've been fortunate enough now where we've gotten a lot of those reps there late in the game where guys are up in the true double digits, almost triple digits, getting some good gradable tape and being able to go play the game. And so you're always trying to, whether it be in practice reps or one-on-one pass rush versus Larry's guys, where you're trying to build that depth so that if the next guy up mentality happens, that guy's going to go in and continue to help you win the game. I mean, Enoch's done that twice for us already this year. I mean, winning the Notre Dame game, Matt got, I think his shoe popped off when he got rolled up on and he couldn't go. And Enoch goes in on a critical situation and we run a GT counter and he pulls and kicks the guy out and we rush it for 10, 12 yards in the red zone. And then he runs off the field. So being ready to make your play when your number's called. I mean, that goes back to, some of the sayings, Clay, we're talking about here, like that's competitive excellence. That's the definition of it on film. He did it again this week. Same deal. Matty's shoe popped off, and all of a sudden he's running off holding the shoe. Enoch goes in, and we slide to the right, pick up a twist game, and we hit Mecca for a touchdown. So, staying ready and being ready. He's done a really good job with that, and just continuing to play and build, because you never know when your number is going to get called.
Teaching has been a big topic within the program this year with a lot of new coaches. I guess that makes sense. That's something we've talked about a bunch with Jim Knowles, but it's been a big deal for Frye as well. With Frye being a new coach and 3 guys starting in different spots than they did last year, he really had to hit the ground running and really get to know each of his players and make what makes them tick.
Challenge in positive connotation, I would say, because that's what, once again, in coaching, that's what you're supposed to do. Just early on, getting a feel. You got to find a common ground for each kid and who they are, what they're about, what pushes them, how do they react to certain situations or certain things, and then ultimately just coaching those guys. So as we've alluded to a couple times, like, so that at 4th and 1 at the 50-yard line, everybody does their job, right? If the left tackle and the center needed hot pink tip sheets because that's why they see it better, and the right guard needs 72 walkthrough reps, and the right tackle needs yelled at this many times or fired up on this, whatever you have to do to get those guys to do their job, that is your job as a coach, right? Because as I said, like I haven't taken a snap in a long time, and the ones I did back in the day at the end they were pretty rough anyway, so it's probably a good thing, right? So, but that's the fun challenge in coaching is understanding your guys, coaching your guys, getting them to go maximize themselves. And then when they have success, like you feel good about that because you've helped them do what they want to go do, right? And that sounds super cheesy, but that's just a fact. That's why college football is fun still that way, because big, strong, and Dwan Jones walks through the door frame and he's huge, but he's still just a 21-year-old guy. He's still just a young man learning and growing in Paris. And I mean, all these guys, they do all this stuff. Matt Jones is a fifth-year guy. He's always an old veteran. I mean, he's 22 years old, right? 23 years old. Like, he got a lot left to him. So finding the ways to help those guys maximize themselves, but ultimately for us to win the games, that's the fun challenge in it, Bill.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that one again. That was we had just a bunch of interviews during that off week, and walked away from those thinking, boy, that was a lot of really interesting, different kind of insightful stuff. When you have a week where you don't have a game, the sort of deadline of a game looming on Saturday, get to ask some sort of bigger picture stuff. And with it being the midpoint of the season, it was a good time to do some sort of midterm analysis. So we got a little bit of that on Friday with Devin Radcliffe, and then Saturday with the defensive coaches, today with the offensive coaches. So hope you guys enjoyed that. We will be back to a usual game week schedule now as we head into Iowa week for the Buckeyes. We will have plenty of coverage throughout the week, of course, at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Our usual pre- and post-game coverage at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle on Saturday. Should be a great week in Columbus. A lot of fun, a lot of stuff to talk about, and it is starting to get real. We are now a little bit past the halfway mark for October. Hard to believe we're just over 2 weeks away from November. This season is flying by, so make sure you are savoring every moment of it at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We have a fantastic team of insiders covering the team, covering recruiting, covering X's and O's, covering the Buckeyes from every possible angle. Sign up today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.